Hi, welcome to this demo of training a style on Fizgig. So first thing I want to show you is a cool Reddit post that I saw the other day, which was this kind of paper cut series of images that have been done with a user called Amo Amro Mali. I'll link this in the YouTube description. They've done them with ChatGPT. There's about 9 images. Pretty awesome style. I just thought, yeah, I just loved it. I thought that would be really cool for training on. So let's just minimize that. I saved them to a folder on my C drive and I just drag and drop them. And then I'm going to now go into Fizgig. The path to that folder is already here. So that's all we need to do in the first tab. If you've seen the previous video, if you haven't seen the previous video, maybe go back and watch that. That'd probably be handy for you. Image prep tab. All I did, because they started off as WebPs, was I just did the resize option. I could have even left them at original resolution and just converted them to pings, or chose the higher one, because quite frankly, what's worth knowing is on the training tab, when you select the megapixels, whatever as it converts, caches the latents, effectively gets them ready for training, it copies them at the res it needs. So it means you can keep your stuff in your like training folders um for concepts or whatever at a higher res in case better models come along in the future that are higher res. But anyway, resize only is the option that I did, and did it to 1024 pics at the largest size. For explanation of the face modes, etc., which are not relevant here, go back and look at the previous video to this one, which was the rapid LoRA training demo for Krea 2. So captions for training a style, I actually have a preset in here now, which is called the style preset. It's under the Klein encoder, which has been added for this captioning tab since I did the last video. I do recommend training using a token with training a style. The reason is, in my methodology for training a style, is you get the model to describe the factual contents of the image without reference to the style. So I have a prompt here, which you can edit. Describe the image with zero reference to the image style, just the factual contents of what is depicted. I find that works extremely well with Quinn. And then it prepends this trigger word at the start of the style. So the captioning process, when you hit caption all, it takes about 30 seconds, 40 seconds. You can see I actually ran it just before I did this video, but it's literally 30, 40 seconds work. And if I click into one of them actually, let's click into this one, and I'll read it to you in case you can't read it, depending on the screen you're on. ZWXEM, a large vivid red sun hangs in the sky, radiating light. Below it, a series of towering verdant mountains rise in layers, their peaks and slopes in dense green foliage and ancient-looking trees. Nestled atop the mountain summits and along ridges are multiple traditional East Asian-style pagodas and temple structures. And it continues on like that. Again, avoiding mentioning paper cut or anything like that. Let's go into the samples tab now. I have one I prepared earlier here. A car in a road at sunset in a deep valley in a rainforest. Width-wise, I'm doing 1024 for the samples, height 1536. And you can leave the rest of this really at the default. And now on the training tab, you obviously need to select Krea 2, which we have here. Select the ultra fast preset. Now, I've got here paper cut Reddit style is the name of it. This preset here, it's a fairly high learning rate for a minimum learning rate. It does what's called adaptive learning rate control. So it can dial it back, but that's set to have a minimum for here. The way I built this this trainer is that the adaptive basically allows it to push certain images harder than others, and ones that are causing problems dial them back. Now, I normally, in order to enable that, I normally keep these two on. That is the default, the per image adaptive LR throttle. Now, the fact is, when you're training a style on such a small data set like this, I actually would turn that off, because it is going to get to a situation where it will probably, with it being a small data set, hit higher levels of loss than normal and might start pulling them back. So we could leave it on and we probably would have some success, but it would really slow it down. And the ideal way to probably train this style would be to reduce the minimum to 1E minus 4, but I want to make this video easy and end-to-end digestible for you. So let's leave it as it was, 2E minus 4, but turn off these two tick boxes, and then leave all the memory settings on auto, no matter what your card, because the memory algorithm is designed to make the most out of your card. It does look at available VRAM models, what capabilities your card has, and picks as best for that. So let's just actually start the training. So I'm going to hit start training now, and it's going to load up the models. While it's doing that, actually, I'm just going to show you something in the preferences tab. I have added a button for downloading all the models for both Klein and Krea. Klein requires no interaction because it doesn't require any Hugging Face token to do it. You do have to paste a Hugging Face token in for Klein, but not for Krea. But let's go back to the training tab. Incidentally, I have also added LoKR to Fizgig. This I'm training as standard LoRA, but there is full LoKR support across every feature in the entire program now. But this is kicking off. It's probably doing its initial sample. Let's open the view samples gallery. Yeah, it's already done the initial sample, which is actually quite a nifty one. And let's just, now we're set to 20 epochs. I wouldn't be surprised if this takes like, a little bit more. So at the end, by the time we get to 20, which will probably only take about, I don't know, 16 or 17 minutes, I may extend the epochs, and I'll show you how to do that. But I'd say probably by epoch 5, we'll probably start to see something that's really happening. Right now, there's quite a little difference between those two previews. And what I'm just thinking, other option things I can show you. Yeah, I mean, I would recommend going back to the first video, but realistically, most people will never need to touch any of these. Effectively, if you don't understand them, you likely don't need to do stuff with them. And again, Adam W 8-bit works extremely well for me. Again, if this is over your head, do not worry about it. I would advise leaving it on what it's on for the most part. But we're already up to epoch 4. I expect what we'll probably see is, looking at the way those clouds are coming in, we'll probably start to see some like paper cut shapes appearing up here and maybe along here down with these leaves, but we'll see what happens. I don't think it'll be long before that comes along. Let's just scroll down. Yeah, it's just doing another sample now. As I said, this is a very small data set. Similar actually to the last video, except that this data set is smaller than the last video. It's getting more atmospheric. It is also starting to look a bit more illustration-like, with the colors are, if you compare what looked like a real picture almost there, and it's definitely getting more towards illustration vibe. And possibly we see with those clouds there some of what I was talking about. But we're already up to epoch 7. And again, there's a bit more definition in those lines. So let's see what, let me hit refresh. And there's epoch 8. This is, yeah, yeah, we're definitely getting some of what I thought we'd get with these lines. So it's moving along nicely. Just while we're waiting, this line here represents the peak VRAM in use this session, peak 26.1, and this one here, RAM, I've got a lot of RAM in this machine, but it can accommodate with a lot less. I have actually got reports on YouTube this week from people who successfully trained LoRAs with 8 GB with these automatic settings of 8 GB of VRAM, which actually took me by surprise because I put a lot of work in to make sure 12 worked, but I actually didn't think we got to the point where 8 GB of VRAM actually worked. We're definitely making progress. In fact, if yeah, now where I come from in Ireland, what we'd say is now we're sucking diesel. I don't think would never recommend anyone sucks diesel, but it's a big expression in Ireland. I think it actually relates back to when people would steal fuel from one tractor to put it into another or transfer it between tractors on a farm, or just potentially stealing it. I don't know. It's kind of the segue I did not expect to be making. But yeah, look at that. And across the top of the image. So we're on epoch 13. So it's making good progress. I still think we'll need more than 20. But that's fine because I can show you how to resume from where it leaves off. In fact, well, actually, yeah, I'll just have a look at this one. Car has changed direction. But yeah, that's looking pretty nice. But while we're waiting for the last few epochs, um, you see here how it defaults to keep last two. It keeps the state of the last two epochs as you're going, and the state is something that allows resuming from that epoch. You can of course use the just pause if say if you want to, I don't know, play Rocket League or whatever, boot up Fortnite, you can pause training and then resume. But if you want to resume from the end of a train, what you actually do is you pick the save state from the final epoch and then you whack up the number of epochs. So we'll probably end up doing that. We'll probably end up putting this up to 35 towards the end of this, at the end of this run. And then we'll be hitting the browse button here and browsing to that state folder. And if I didn't up this to 35, it would mean it wouldn't do anything because it would resume from the state and say, oh, I'm at 20 and the max epochs is 20. I'm just going to stop. That's where we at. Oh, this is looking pretty nice. Very, very cool. Yeah, I also run a wallpaper website, and I trained a model on this yesterday at a lower learning rate for over a couple of hours, and used it for a lot of the stuff this week. Yeah, it's looking nice. Here we go. 18. Look at the log. I think it's sampling 19 now, which is the penultimate of the initial run of 20. Wow, that's really freaking cool. Okay, so, and there's 20. So training process complete. So that is pretty cool, but let's say we want to bring it further and we want to work the style a little harder. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to go up to 35 and I'm going to hit in the resume training, I'm going to hit browse. And you see, remember I said the last two? 20 and 19. So I'm going to pick 20. I'm going to hit select folder. And all I'm going to do is hit start training. Resuming from save state, and I didn't see the rest of the sentence, but I remember typing it. It basically says skipping caching latents because they're already cached. So we'll see pretty shortly after it reloads the models that it evacuated from RAM, and we'll see epoch 21. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back into this. Let's do another prompt to current mode sunset. Let's do 2D artwork of a fox by a river. And I'm going to do 1024 by 768. No, let's do higher. 1280 by 1024 and override next sample. But as you can see, that is definitely kicking in. But I just want to, you've been watching this video for 20 minutes so far, so let's give you something else to look at. So I think this 2D one will actually work kind of well because it will lend itself to the style of it, I think, in some ways. We're about to see our fox. Oh yeah. Well, that worked. Definitely still more to do, but it's definitely working. And notice, oh, I actually left out I left out my ZWXEM tag, which, you know what? I left it out of all the prompts, I believe. Yeah, I did, because I am what we call in Ireland an Egypt. There we go. So that will definitely have cut back the effectiveness of the LoRA activation a little bit up until this point, but with this new prompt, it'll have it in. Yeah, and look at the difference that made, adding that ZWXEM in. You know, part of me is wondering, do I re-record the video? But actually, it's actually a kind of cool little proof of concept because we had, you know, it looked pretty nice already what we were getting, but having that in properly instantly added so many layers to everything, even down to the way the hairs are done on the fox. And that sky is just gorgeous. Fox is closing his eyes a little bit. I would question if maybe it might be starting to overbake a little now, because that kind of makes me wonder. I suspect with the high learning rate that we're doing, that this epoch 26 might be the best one. But I'll let it go for a couple more. That's kind of recovered. Yeah, I'll leave it go for a few more. This is the kind of thing I think you could probably keep going for forever, but it's got to a point where I really, really like it already. I'm quite curious, nudging, because at the end of the day, Krea is a smart model, but by nudging it along slightly with engaging its own knowledge, if I do paper cut artwork, so you're nudging, because previously we only have the token, so the token combined with the model's own knowledge is certainly not a bad thing to try. It'll be interesting to see what difference it makes. We got a new, I didn't notice or I didn't realize if I'd done it in time for the last one. So this sample that's just about to be produced is definitely in time though. So that was, yeah. So adding the word paper cut, it just helped nudge it along because we've been teaching the model ZWXEM. Now, we could have used papercut as the token to ride along on top of the knowledge of the model, but it's nice to not do that and to give yourself the ability to bring that extra word in if you decide to, because the model will have a lot of prior knowledge of what papercut is that might fight against what you're trying to do with a particular style you're trying to train. So often it's best to use an anonymous token like ZWXEM, because you can always add that other knowledge back in your prompt by using the word. So it just gives you that little bit more finesse or control. But yeah, I think we're pretty much there. To mention a couple of things already, just again, for those of you who maybe, if you don't have a system with enough power, or you can't stop your machine long enough to do this, to train models, I do have a run pod. That is a way, I'll be completely open, that I get a commission, I think, of a couple of pennies per hour when people use that. But it doesn't add to your cost. It's commission that run pod pay me. And as of this train has just finished. So, you know what? Let's do one more thing. I actually used to work for Apple, so possibly just one more thing is ingrained in my bones. This is off the topic of the video, but what the hell, let's do it. This is Repair Studio. And I have here, it's 11:08 p.m. Yeah, there we go. Let's open up this LoRA. And I have a prompt there, car on the road at sunset, Duke Ballet, and I'm going to add the ZWXEM in ZWXEM. And I'm going to add paper cut. We'll do it with and without, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Paper cut style. I can't write anymore. I am actually dyslexic, by the way, so expect typos where no one else will do them. So loading Krea models, loading primary, generating preview. Generating preview. Right, that's pretty nifty. So I want to show you something that you can do. This tool allows you to tweak LoRAs. Now, these are the blocks within Krea that you can tweak. And I have not managed to put the hours in to map them all to identity and composition yet, like I did for Klein. When I get some time, I'm going to do it. But I'm going to show you some edits anyway now. We're going to tweak some of the blocks and see what happens. So we'll see. You see this little update there. Well, that's interesting. That last one made things a lot flatter. Let me just bring that back. That's interesting. Let's just tweak some of these. So I'm putting some. I'm strengthening some of them. I'm weakening others. If I do it with one of the early ones, block 0, let's bring it down. Put it to minus value. Let's do the same with block 1. And you can end up changing the behavior of a LoRA quite a bit. And then the text fusion blocks, which relates to how the model understands text, you can even tweak them. If I bring all of them down, for instance, it's made it a lot more simplistic. So you can tweak the performance of a LoRA, and then of course you can change, like if I do a different seed now and update. And some of the simplicity of this one has remained, interestingly. So let's see if that remains if I do another seed. So you see the more rough textures here and the slightly smoother here. So we have had a consistent change to the LoRA there, which is quite interesting. So we could, if you want, for instance, if I go down here, save that LoRA. Now, I also have another tool in here, so I could save this LoRa out and then use it in Comfy UI, or let's explore it in LoRA the Explorer, which is named after a TV show that my children put me through. It is a point of pain, but there we go. This isn't therapy, is it? So I'm going to read this because you will not be able to read it. Refinement mode. Your Repair Studio slider state is now set to the Explorer baseline. Intensity and structure have been set low, so variants are subtle refinements of your current settings. Increase them if you want bolder exploration. So this effectively, it allows you to, it's brought in as a baseline what we had done on the previous one at a given seed. Now, these are variants with random changes. If I want to use one of them as the baseline, like say, I don't know, this one, that one that we've just seen will become the baseline, and it makes, as you see, it's replacing the iterations. So what you can also do is if you increase this slider, it allows it to change the structure more. And see how it's generating new variants. So I'll click that, and that will do 4 more variants. Now, what I'll just do is, you can spend ages doing this, but I'll give you one example. I had a LoRA I was training that I wanted it to veer more towards darker images in the results. So what I did was, over 10 minutes, I kept clicking on the ones that were darkest each time. And I ended up with a LoRA that had the style that I want, but veered more towards dark images, just finding it through random exploration. You can go back the other way and refine in Repair Studio, which is where we just were before this. You can also tweak the amount of mutations per click, and you can update the res. So to keep it fast, I have the max at 768, but let's just do that now. So you can see it's definitely more detailed with being 768. And it's rendering out all the new previews. So one more mode to show you is LoRA Royale. LoRA Royale is effectively you battle your epochs off against each other. So I'm going to hit training folder. So I'm going to browse to folder where you see my output LoRAs. So all the LoRAs we just did, they're all in there. 34 LoRAs found. So let me just pick a new prompt that we haven't done. ZWXEN, the moon reflecting in a lake with Saturn sorry, my dyslexia is kicking in hard. Background. Absolutely nailing me there, but there we go. Okay, so I'm going to get it to do, it's going to do 20 renders. I could have selected all, let's just do all. I'm going to get it to render every epoch out with that prompt. And I'm doing a reasonably high resolution. So it's doing 34 images here. And one coffee later, and you're back with me. We are at 33 of 34. So we're nearly there. Because I picked quite a high res for these samples, it may take make it take longer, but it's nice for this demo, just to show you properly. So rendering 34 of 34. So this is progressing with the epochs of the LoRA. So if you look at the cloud in the top left, for instance, there. So we're going down to the early epochs here. And then bringing in more of the style there. So you see epoch 13. It's kind of cool, actually. I like that. And what you can actually do is you can export that out as a video. You can export them all as stills. Um, if the faces involved, you can do likeness scores. You can also do seed travel and prompt travel as well. And you can also make little well, strength travel, LoRa strength travel, but also you can do comparison images that show LoRa an image with the same prompt with the LoRa on or off. And that is pretty much it. So I hope that you found it interesting. And I will figure, yeah, in the comments, you know what would be handy? In the comments, let me know if there's an area that you would like me to spend more of, and I can do that in another video. In the meantime, thanks for being here, and I'm going to click stop now and chat to you soon.